roll.
Councilperson Diana.
Okay.
Councilperson Kazarian.
Present.
Councilperson Figueroa. Councilperson Alonso Zalpine. Councilperson Laura Gonzalo Martinez. Councilperson Solano.
Present.
Council President Ferry.
Present.
Mr. President, we have quorum.
Thank you. Council Dwight. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
thank you, everyone.
Next item on the agenda under 3 is public comment.
John Brown. John Byrne. Mr. John Brown. John Byrne. I know
We
it's
just have
John.
public comment.
Yeah, so I'm just making sure, because.
You're going to listen. After them.
No, it's okay, I thought I signed up for public comment, but no, thank you.
Sorry, yeah, you signed up for annual capital.
Thank you, I'll talk then, that's okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
My name is John Burns, I'm a senior staff representative from Allen Council Board, representing the city workers here in London. I rise in support of the contract on your agenda tonight. Go to fair and equal contract, that's why that's the council to approve our contract.
Thank you. It's good to see you.
No, that's fine. I think I signed the wrong paper, so I apologize. Older age, it happens. I'm loud enough? Okay. Good evening, council. First, I wanted to thank everybody for all the work that you all did for the budget season. I know it requires a lot more, it requires your personal time and then the time at the meeting. So I just wanted to say, honestly, thank you for all that you do. Just a couple questions that I had. I posed them to a couple of council people, but I just wanted to make it public. So you guys know. One of them was regarding the new position of deputy chief of staff. During the meetings that I attended, I didn't really hear a reason for why we were adding the position. We've never ever had that position in the city before. We didn't have a deputy chief of staff before 2013 either. So I just wondered what is happening in the city that's requiring us to add that additional position, because there's the salary and there's also the benefits, so it's more than the $55,000 that we're paying for. Also, kind of on a big level, I was curious about what, if any, studies have been done to look at the impact of all the additional housing that's coming to our city. I know, that the mayor has her agenda, which that's great, but I think those of us who own and live here and expect to live here long term should understand what's going to happen to us in 10, 20 years. So I don't know if that's a question you can answer tonight, or maybe you can get some more information about it. Let us know as a community where we stand. That's it for me. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess first off, and the council member or members that you asked
I'm sorry, I walked away.
in particular council member that they get an answer for you?
No, so I asked the question, and there wasn't an answer, so I'm asking it. Because as I said, I waited for the meetings to take place to see if anybody brought up the questions and had an answer. So it did get answered. Thank you. Yep, no worries.
Archie, you want to answer?
Yep.
Thank you, Council President. For the specific question relating to the deputy chief of staff position, I can't speak historically to what was guys started a year ago. I can speak about the workload that we've seen in the office since I started a year ago. I was there for about 6 months when I started. One, comparing to other municipalities. And out of the mayor's office, when I started, we had myself and the mayor's executive assistant, Luika, and then we had a part-time communications position. And that's significantly understaffed compared to any municipality. Now we are smaller than others, but orders of magnitude less staff at the mayor's office. And there's an important coordinating function that happens from the mayor's office. And she sits and has all the department directors reporting to her. And it's important that there be somebody helping to make the trains run on time. And I will say personally that I did not take a vacation longer than 2 days before a deputy was hired because I didn't feel comfortable that there would be somebody there as that sort of nexus point when God forbid something was wrong in the city, but also just the normal day-to-day operations. And I felt and made the recommendation that was eliminated in the finance department because it was deemed that that capacity was not needed there. Because I do take very seriously our responsibility as stewards of public dollars, and was not looking at heads for head's sake, and was not seeking to keep heads in other places where they weren't necessary. And so we felt this was a rational distribution of human capital across the government.
Thank you. You guys have well, you know, the time when we had that position, pretty much in the school going
Yeah, I think maybe our day for the benefit was like a meeting and with the sharing what you shared with us, sort of the difference a little bit more, because I know like the deputy chief of staff is taking on more like communications and stuff, like maybe just sharing that disclosure.
Yep. So when we think about the specific job role breakdown, right? There's the specific functions that we're meeting on the deputy chief of staff position for. One is the day-to-day communications work, right? So we have a part-time communications person for the city, but I noted through my first 6 months or so that this is somebody who's a contractor, right? So there wasn't somebody sitting in City Hall day-to-day focused on communications. So, for example, today, are my deputy when I'm away, right? So I feel comfortable taking vacation. They're also handling, and this is in the job description, important strategic priorities for the mayor. What that is ultimately going to look like. This is a quality of life budget that we presented to you. And I'm always a believer though that in order to drive accountability for hard things, you need one person that's taking the lead on it. So one thing that she is basically going, the deputy, to take on is the implementation of the various quality of life initiatives that are part of this budget, right? So take, for example, the traffic speed bump program that we are proposing, right? In order to effectively administer that, we're going to need to have a public submission process, right? Where people can identify places where they would like a speed bump to be posted. It's going to have to be tracked and then coordinated with the police department, and a traffic study can be done so that we can make decisions about which of the multiple applications that I'm anticipating we get are the ones we ultimately select. All of those types of things are going to be, those quality of life initiatives are going to be run by the deputy chief of staff as well. Frankly, Councilman Bland, I think that's a more specific answer than I gave, because what I gave to you was the job description, but I want to be more detailed. Yeah. Other questions?
Yeah, now that you mentioned the accident that happened on West Street,
Yeah.
across the street from the school,
Yeah.
and I see when I was coming from work, I see that pole that was falling down.
Yeah.
That was the part of the accident. He hit that pole.
Yes.
Thanks. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you, Andy.
Yep.
And I guess the next question, I guess, asked about the future, the study, yes, I would say between the planning department and the zoning department. I'm sure they look into every project regarding structures, parking, traffic, the whole 9 yards. But two avenues, one is planning and one is zoning.
So do you,
Yes, that's.
So actually, this was coincidentally a question that I asked Mayor, the Director of Finance and Chief of Staff today. So that's interesting. But yeah, I think one of the things that we heard a lot, and I said this morning, last meeting in particular was around, we do a lot with right? Like most of the departments are talking about we get the biggest bang for our buck. We do a lot with our little. We're sort of being asked to do a lot, but our budget it doesn't necessarily sustain all of the things that we need to do, but we still make it work. So that was one of the concerns or comments I made this morning was around how do we make sure, and actually it was said perfectly by the chief of staff around how do we make sure that we are not a victim of our own success, right? So like I think that it's really great, all of the different initiatives, especially around housing, we're trying to solve for those challenges that our families have. We know that they're doubled up, we know that they're, displaced, we know that a lot of them are homeless, yet they're still in our districts, they're still in our cities to provide that housing for them going on. But also making sure that then we can sustain sort of the people that are going to come and live here that are not necessarily already here. So how do we make sure that our school district is fully funded or funded properly for an influx of kids, considering part of the plan is to take over. And how do we make sure the fire department and the police department have the resources that they need when and if we get an influx of people that come to the city. So those are questions that I raised today that I agreed with Tia that is something that we should be looking at, and it is something that the finance director and chief of staff agreed and will be looking into as well. Just wanted to provide that context because when you said it's not
so Councilman, can I just, well, so,
Absolutely.
since you were answering my question, so just a quick question, are you saying definitively that planning has done that study and that study is
I would think
somewhere?
so. I would think so.
So you, okay, so
Planning
then,
is right here, Jim can get up here now.
Yep.
You look here, I appreciate it. Thank you. I guess the question was concerning fully study some of these projects we have, the housing, like I said, between the zoning and planning, ensure they do match, and happen.
Yeah, so there are requirements for every project that goes for development. It requires a zoning variance or zoning relief of some kind. That would be reviewed by staff and then up to the zoning board for plan development. There would be a review of the plans upon submission of an application by the applicant. That's all reviewed in terms of there's a checklist of items required. There's a review for consistency with the city's comprehensive plan. Consistency with the intent of the zoning ordinance to ensure that any proposed project is appropriate for the surrounding area, that it meets the city's goals. Context seems to be referring to housing developments, and given that's been a priority and it's well stated in the comprehensive plan, it's certainly a point it's a third review.
If I may, if I'm not mistaken, I think the question was probably, so like, I really trust your word, Jim, and we are setting your team to speak out, so I think it's more, if I'm, please, tell me if I'm misrepresenting, but, it was more, I think it's more around the impact of like, okay, you're doing all these really great things, what impact does that have on the department, on like quality of life in 5 years, in 10 years, and how do we make sure that the resources are really to fund, properly fund different departments, including living, and I'm not putting the question on you, I'm just, sort of you were called to the view, but this question, I don't know that necessarily the planning department has the answer, so I'm sure I'll be able to have an answer,
So
right?
sure,
But it's just
a
sort
couple of thoughts on that is that certain requirements are put upon the proposal to develop the proposal process. Traffic impact study, for example. There are reviews in terms of the effect they might have on public safety. I know that in consideration of effects on the population. And I'm not going to swear that every single housing project that comes before, with small units, that a new projection of population and how that might affect the school enrollment. But as part of the construction of the new high school, there was an extensive review and analysis of what the population projections were, right? Because that facility needs to not only meet current needs, but future needs as well. So with that as sort of recent background information, we know that there's an ability to absorb additional population. We also know that every new unit does not necessarily mean a new individual, a new household moving into the city, right? It will also, in many cases, relieve the overcrowded conditions that exist within the unit.
Yeah, and I was saying that right before you came in, like there's people that are doubled up that we know are going to move in to get a own space.
Thank you. And that's a nice thing, but it ain't that really kind of thing. Anyone else?
Next item on the agenda on the board is approval of electric meeting minutes from May 29th, 2024.
Everyone review those minutes?
Yes.
Satisfied?
passes 6-0. Next item on the agenda under executive communications is the Bureau of Proclamation proclaiming June 19th to be recognized as Juneteenth National Police Day in the city of St. Louis.
Lane,
5, executive communications. Number B, Bureau of Proclamation declaring June 7th, 2024 to be recognized as National Gun Violence Awareness Day.
also, Lane,
Under number 6, new business. Number 1, consideration of tentative agreement between AFS CIB Council 94 Local 1627 and the City of Central Falls.
At your pleasure, Mr. President. Good evening, Mr. President, honorable members of the council. It's a pleasure to be here with you this evening. My name is Charles Ruggiero. I'm the legal counsel of the city of St. Falls. And it's my pleasure to present for your consideration the tentative agreement between the city and its 26 unionized non-sworn personnel that represent Pasadena Council 94 Local 1627. The agreement before you is a 3-year agreement that includes modest cost of living adjustments and certain changes to the terms and conditions of employment for these members that have inured to the city's benefit that will adjust both our recruitment and retention issues that have plagued us in certain mining capacities for a number of years, provide us more efficient use of existing personnel, and continue to negotiate fiscally responsible agreements that avoid legacy costs that have historically plagued the city's collective bargaining agreements prior to its entering into receivership and then bankruptcy. The agreement itself is the culmination of months of hard bargaining between the city staff and Local 1627 business agent John Burns from Aspen is here as well this evening to support this agreement. You've all received a memorandum from Human Resources Director Tommy Arena highlighting some of the terms of the agreement. I'm happy to go through them again this evening. Some of the highlights include addressing areas where we've historically struggled with recruiting and retaining personnel, specifically in the area of police dispatch. We've been able to allocate some resources to bump up the police dispatchers by 3%, in addition to the modest across the board increases that the other bargaining unit members received. We've offering and provided for in this agreement for the first time a bilingual bonus for any member of the bargaining unit who was able to interface with members of the public that speaks another language. So that's the first for our negotiations with them. The bilingual bonus is $300. I think that will certainly provide us with a more efficient use of personnel, encouraging and retaining people that are bilingual within the city of Milwaukee. And it provides for, in addition to that, first ever utilization of utility workers who would provide city service and routine vehicle maintenance, whereas that much of that work is currently outsourced to providers. So trying to utilize our personnel more efficiently, trying to work with the resources that we have while simultaneously avoiding some of the legacy costs that have historically put us in a poor financial position going forward. I'm happy to answer any questions. Just in terms of the actual cost of the agreement, I would highlight that the fiscal impact for the upcoming budget, 2025 budget, as a result of this contract is approximately less than 0.5%. So again, we're talking about a fiscally prudent agreement. Sorry. Thank you. Again, we're talking about a very fiscally prudent agreement where the overall cost in time that we're looking at that record inflation is pretty modest. So it's a pleasure to be here tonight. I recommend on behalf of the administration approval of this agreement. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. And I'm also accompanied by members of the finance team and human resources team in supplement and response.
Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
That meeting, I will open the negotiations regarding
Yes, Mr. President, myself, RJ, Mary, Anna, who are also here. The contract was reviewed by myself, Mary, the mayor, who all signed the agreement, as well as the union, and all recommend.
Yes, I do have a question, sir. And when I look at, I read it here, we read with so many things here that I would like to know, to understand. The increase of 3% is reasonable, I know the cost of living is high, right? So we understand that, but I would like to understand that part. In addition to the across the board increases negotiated. So, who like to
So the increases for the entire group are 2.5% for this upcoming fiscal year, 3% for the fiscal year that follows, and 3% for the year that follows after that. As it relates only for the police dispatchers, we've had, I believe, 6 police dispatcher positions that were budgeted. Historically, we've been able to actually have about 4 people fill those 6 positions because of attrition. We continue turnover in that capacity. It also causes us a little bit of health and safety concerns when people working obscene amounts of overtime just because we can't staff police dispatch. It's an important critical function. As a result of that, one of our goals was to address that retention issue, and we did that by making certain adjustments to their overtime, but in addition to that, bumping each person, each step of police dispatchers up by 3%. So they receive a 3% increase on top of what was negotiated for everybody else, because we need to address the retention issues in those positions.
I think I will understand that, and I see that the salary, I mean, I think the hour they get within the compared with the cost of living. So
And it's really well compared to comparable communities, so we're frequently losing dispatchers to other communities where our base rate is just lower than Lincoln, Cumberland,
Yeah.
some surrounding communities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So follow-up would be, the 3% additional, is that just for this year? Or is that 3% for the next 3 years?
It's a one-time adjustment for 4%.
I agree with dispatches, those folks
Just so you know, repeating again, it's more important to have someone and keep it working for a long time than be hiring people every year and training again and start all over again. Like it's more expensive for the city and it's worth for everybody. So, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Actually, and I don't know if it would be for you or for, but I love the vitamin That's okay. I guess, what does demonstrated proficiency look like? Is there like some sort of test?
We would have to test it. We would just
Okay.
test the proficiency. I mean, I think in many departments, we have people that are performing that function now. to some
Anyway, yes.
extent. So I think their proficiency has been established over their career, but to the extent that we have someone that is fine, they would have proficiency. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess we need a motion in order to, council approve. Make a motion, Council President.
Second.
Councilman Lamb?
Yes, and I just also wanted to say thank you to Mary because I love it. That's really
Council President Casano?
Yes.
Council President Figueroa? Yes. Council President, Solano?
Yes.
Council President Rosado Martinez?
Yes.
And Council President Sherry? Motion passes 6-0.
Good seeing you again.
Thank you.
Good seeing you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda, number 7, is advertised public hearing regarding central policy fiscal year 25 proposed budget proposal. Number 1, fiscal year 2025 annual operating budget ordinance general fund, fair value question. President, if we may, can we bundle them all together for the?
Oh, absolutely, sure.
So under the next item is ordinance pertaining to the salaries of department heads and others in unclassified services for by request. Number 3, fourth ordinance amending the wage schedule generally varied by request. And number 4, annual capital program and capital budget ordinance varied by request.
Oh, no, sorry, that was my mistake. Thank you.
That's the
Yeah, that's where I signed in, exactly. You got it.
And no one has signed up. And any questions before first passing?
No, it wasn't a question. I guess I just wanted to comment on the process. So this year, I think, you know, even though it's a lot for us, at least for me, speaking for myself, you know, during the month of May, like, you know, I have a full-time job, right? Like all of the things we make it work. But I did just want to know and thank the mayor's staff because this year we had a little bit more time. So, you know, so it made it, you know, it was more reasonable for me to be able to go through each of the budget items. And so I did just want to say thank you for that because, you know, in the past it's just been a little bit more crammed up. And so yeah, so I just wanted to say thank you because it did help to have more time to be able to review everything and ask the questions and, you know, just the accessibility and availability of the director of financial to answer anything was really helpful. So I just wanted to say thank you for that.
With that, motion, this passage,
Council President, what we presented initially here just now was just the public hearing portion. We're now moving into item 8, which is scheduled bills, hearings, and consideration. So we ask if you could please close the public hearing before we get on to the next.
Public hearing out closed.
Bill number 8, schedule of bills, hearings, and considerations in the A fiscal year 2025 annual operating budget. Ordinance general fund first reading, carried by request. We're looking for a motion.
First passage.
Yes.
Is there a motion on first passage? So.
Councilperson Baena?
Yes.
Councilperson Cazare?
Yes.
Councilperson Peguero?
Yes.
Councilperson Rosado Martinez?
Yes.
Councilperson Solano?
Yes.
Councilperson Barry? Motion passes 6-0. Next item under B is ordinance pertaining to the salaries of department heads and others in classified services, first reading, carried by request.
Motion.
The director of meetings, just share a little bit more about the ordinance. Just specifically, I guess. So last meeting, it was just an the meeting where this was introduced, it was just introduced, there was no sort of discussion about it, so it would be helpful this is a really long ordinance, and I know that.
Could I just have a point of clarification?
Yeah.
Aren't we talking about the salaries?
Right.
Yeah, I think you're jumping in.
Wait, I thought we were,
No, that was for this is for the vote process, we have to go through each one.
oh, I'm sorry, you
Before
were
the
saying
public
public comment.
hearing,
collectively.
public hearing was collective.
Got it,
We're not doing.
I apologize.
But yes, we will, Jim will have lots of
I
things to say.
appreciate that, I really thought we were
No.
voting not on collective.
Yeah.
Apologies.
So we're looking for a motion. Councilperson Bayana?
Yes.
Councilperson Kazari?
Yes.
Councilperson Teguero?
Yes.
Councilperson Rosado Martinez?
Yes.
Councilperson Solano?
Yes.
Council President Ferry? Motion passes 6-0. Next item on the agenda under C is ordinance amending the wage schedules, general first reading.
Second.
Councilperson Bayana? Councilperson Kazari?
Yes.
Councilperson Teguero?
Yes.
Councilperson Rosado Martinez?
Yes.
Councilperson Solano?
Yes.
Council President Ferry?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Next item on the agenda under D is annual capital program and capital budget ordinance, first reading, hearing by request. Councilperson Bayana?
Yes.
Councilperson Kazari?
Yes.
Councilperson Teguero?
Yes.
Councilperson Rosado Martinez?
Yes.
Councilperson Solano?
Yes.
Council President Ferry? Motion passes 6-0. Next item on the agenda under E is amendment to the Central Falls zoning ordinance, creating the new Osram mixed-use special overlay district, second reading. Carried by. We have Planning Director Jim Vandermillen sign off this meeting tonight.
Good evening, Council President Ferry, members of the council. As you know, the ordinance creating a new special overlay district was introduced on April 22nd and the first reading on April 20th. As per state law, public notice was advertised in the newspaper. Notices were sent out to butters. State law allows for further comment and recommendations, proposals to further amend what has already been introduced. And what I'd like to do this evening is to introduce a modification to what was already presented. And I've got some documentation here that I would like to distribute, which is, I know you have some materials there. This kind of zeroes in on comments and I'd love to be able to So just as I've outlined here in the top document, just the background is the fact that the ordinance amending the zoning ordinance included three sections. One was section 101.4 to create the new special overlay district surrounding the Osram facility. Section 304 specifically allowed for self-storage within that newly defined district. And the purpose of that amendment was to encourage a mix of uses that would make development of the overall site more economically feasible. A mix of uses. The city really is trying to promote housing development there. We would also like to see a mix of other types of commercial activity there. What was proposed through that ordinance was to allow for self-storage as part of that mix in order to make that type of overall mixed use more economically feasible. And then section 603 in that original ordinance that was introduced outlines the specific parameters of that district, what is called. So those details are there. And upon further internal discussion and review at the city level, what we are proposing is to place a limit in terms of the overall area of the site within the district that could be developed as self-storage. So the original language included a limit on existing buildings, so that would not allow for development of new buildings for the purpose of self-storage. What we're recommending here is further limits, not just to existing buildings, but within those existing buildings, placing an overall limit of 230,000 square feet. That's based on knowledge of the footprints, how much space is available in each of those buildings, the fact that there are already some uses in play there, that there's one tenant there and another one is on its way. So we want to see that kind of commercial activity continue. So therefore, we don't want to just give overall blanket authorization to convert every square inch of existing building into self-storage. So what I have included in what I just distributed was proposed modification of that original language. So section 101 remains unchanged as was introduced. Section 304 includes a modification to the footnote. I know we're getting into the weeds here, but these are the details that really matter. So what's even included here is shown in the highlighted text is, I'll read the full footnote and I'll go for the changes. So the footnote is written as many storage and self-storage facilities are permitted by right solely within existing buildings located on properties in the AMUSAD, which is the shorthand for the special area district. As of the date AMUSAD was established hereunder, the addition would be to say up to a total limit 230,000 square feet of mini storage and self-storage within the AMUSAD. So specifically calling out that's the proposed change in section 304. The proposed modification to section 603, again highlighted in yellow, and I'll begin by reading the existing language of 602.1, which reads, AMUSAD development. In accordance with section 101.4 of this ordinance, an AMUSAD district may contain one or more manufacturing and or commercial structures, pertinent accessory buildings, common areas, open space and roadways, including the ability to utilize existing structures within the AMUSAD for mini storage and self-storage by right. The addition that I'm proposing is contingent on the mini storage and self-storage occurring inside existing buildings located on properties in the AMUSAD as of the date the AMUSAD was established hereunder, and up to a total limit of 230,000 square feet of mini storage and self-storage within the AMUSAD. So again, that same language that I mentioned at the footnote, we specifically recommend calling out that limit within those details that are outlined. So my request, my recommendation would be to approve the ordinance as introduced with the amendments that are called out within the documents that I've provided. Happy to answer any questions.
Tonight is amended, which the key is the existing structures.
Existing structures
And the
further limited by the square. That's correct.
two pieces. I guess I assume everyone's familiar with exactly what this is. And I think you corrected, a lot of people say, oh, what's that, a parking lot on the left? I think you corrected that by saying It's basically a seal.
That's correct. Right, that's done in accordance with.
Yeah, a lot of that's,
environmental-
what do they do? Do they have a big contract? Any questions? It's, I think this strengthens the fact that we do have a limit on storage facilities, which is and this keeps that in place. This pretty much keeps that. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, I do have one.
Yeah.
Jim, thank you so much for all for the work that happened during this. I would like to know how many square feet are in total?
I should have that answer, and I'm gonna cheat and turn to one of my colleagues here who may have that. You had for the total square footage
The
of
total,
the site,
okay.
of the buildings, which I can give you right off the top of my head, but, yeah, great, thank you. So, within the, if I may, for illustration purposes, the boundary, if you refer to the map, includes, this is the northern boundary, right? The railroad tracks, and then the Blackstone, Broad Street. So this is the size of the parcels. So it doesn't include for multiple levels within the buildings. That's the overall area of each of those sections. So you think it's about 230,000 square feet within the overall site. Again, looking at the largest parcel, that's 255,000 square feet, but that's multiple levels. So really what, that's a significant limitation, and if you take all of that into account. And then, excellent question. Hope that helps.
I jump ahead.
No, it's good.
Thank you. Thank you.
So just to clarify. The total that can be uncovered for this lot,
Within that
yeah,
overlay
in
zone.
this area, is for self-storage would be 230,000 square feet, regardless of if it's new, construction for self-storage or, existing structures. Because, and I ask that because it says, in accordance with section 114 of this ordinance, the district may contain commercial structures. And then towards the end it says, within that district for mini storage and self-storage.
The key point there is within existing buildings.
Okay.
So, referring to the footnote in the table, first of all, section 304.
Yes.
The footnote there does indicate that mini storage and self-storage facilities are permitted by right solely within existing buildings
Okay.
located.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I understood.
And
Because
then
then I
it's
read
an
the other part
additional,
and
yeah,
I
it's
was
an
like,
additional restriction. I'm glad that you asked the question, because I want to make sure that we would not permit any construction of any new buildings for the purpose of self-storage.
Looking for a motion to approve the amendment. Roll call.
Councilperson Maya,
yeah.
Councilperson Rivera,
Yes, please.
Councilperson Miguel. Yes. Councilperson Miguel Martinez,
Yes.
Councilperson Solano,
Yes.
Council President Ferry.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Secretary, second.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda under Council President, as per the solicitor, we have to
this item again because the public hearing has to be open prior to the vote.
Public hearing now open. Anyone sign up?
Mr. Vander Laan will give his presentation.
Would you like to speak as well?
Yeah, please sign. I just have a few questions.
Yes. Jim, now that we're officially in the public hearing, can you press the amendment, have the vote on it, and then vote?
Members of the council, I presented to you proposed modifications to the amendment to the zoning ordinance. I would like to request that the language that's highlighted in the document that I presented be included in the final passage of the proposed amendment creating the Oceanside Special Road District. Mr. Cicero, going into further detail, calling out the specific language.
The language was provided to council. I think that's fine, and maybe let them speak and then vote.
Thank you. Thank you again. Thank you.
Good
Sorry, I
evening.
didn't something silent. I didn't see any paper, that's why I got fired.
Good evening, Council President and members of the board. My name is Paul Escobar, and I'm an attorney with Hasbro, which owns 1033 Broad Street. I just have a couple of questions regarding the limitation. I just wanted to know what the basis is for 230,000 square feet. What's the reasonable basis for it? In other words, where do you come up with those numbers? And if that's a hard and fixed rule, if you will, because as you know, we all want commercial development and redevelopment of the city, and that might be something that might not be, I just want to know what the basis of 230 is, where did it come from, what's the methodology on it? And we're not projecting, we just want to know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the question, and it is based on analysis of the existing square footage within the buildings. As I mentioned previously, the understanding that there's some existing commercial activity within those buildings. So it takes into account the footprint of the existing former manufacturing industrial buildings, including the former Osram site as well as the Hasbro site. The Hasbro site is included within the boundaries outlined on the map. So it's taken into account area within the existing structure on the Hasbro site as well as the existing structures within the Osram facility, but carving out some of that for other uses.
I understand. What's the formula? Where did you come up with 230?
Based on specific footprint.
Can you share that?
I can. I don't have those footprints. Perhaps this building.
I mean, it seems like a really definite number. I just want to make sure that everybody knows where it came from. What's the basis of it? All right.
I don't know if it would be worth it to note that previously, and I was on maternity leave at the time, but it's my understanding that the council passed an ordinance to restrict self-storage. And so this is an exception to that previous ordinance. So I just wanted to know that, like, so it's already restricted now. And so the 230 is actually an exception to that.
Understood. I appreciate that, Councilman. And the council just explained some additional facts of which we were not aware.
Sure.
So with that in mind, I'm withdrawing my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Mr. President, just because the state law requires this to be done the correct way, so at this point, with the public hearing still open, you would entertain a motion to adopt Jim's proposed amendment.
So move to adopt his proposed amendment, which he presented here tonight.
Looking for a motion.
So I include the amendment. I'll second.
Right, we already had, okay, we already had. Come back, we have enough. Stay over.
Councilperson Byron?
Yes. This
Councilperson
is for the amendment.
This is for the amendment.
Councilperson Casari?
Yes.
Councilperson Figueroa? Yes. Councilperson Gonzalo Martinez?
Yes.
Councilperson Solano?
Yes.
Council President Ferry?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
And now, Mr. President, we would close the public hearing and then call for a motion to approve the ordinance as amended.
Hearing stands closed. A motion for the amendment to this.
I'll make the motion.
Again,
Second.
Thank you. With that, roll call vote, please.
Councilperson Byron?
Yes.
Councilperson Casari?
Yes.
Councilperson Figueroa? Yes. Councilperson Gonzalo Martinez?
Yes.
Councilperson Solano?
Yes.
Council President Ferry? Motion passes 6-0. Next item on the agenda is adjournment.
Before we adjourn, I want to thank the council members for time now. We're almost there. With that. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Stand adjourned at 6:50.
Blah, blah, blah.
Tell this out.